How many times have you seen a spectacular photo of Saturn's rings or Jupiter's bands and thought, to do that, I'd have to sell a kidney? I can't blame you. In astronomy, everything costs a kidney, a lung, and then some. But let me tell you that there is a branch of astronomy that is known for being the easiest to start practicing and the cheapest, because we can begin to enjoy it with almost any telescope, even with completely entry-level telescopes. I'm talking about the branch of planetary astronomy and astrophotography, the field that allows you to observe and photograph the moon, the sun, and the planets of the solar system. My name is Luis Miguel Azorin, and I welcome you once again to Natural Portraits. Before we dive into what I'm going to tell you, I want to take away a fear you might have. As you'll see in this video, astrophotography doesn't have to be an elite hobby. In fact, planetary astrophotography is the most affordable and rewarding branch of all. It's the branch I started with, and I did it using a simple webcam that I modified myself and an almost toy-like telescope. Nowadays, we have better resources at our disposal, but you can get an idea of what I mean. To photograph a distant nebula, you need mounts that can cost thousands of euros and skies as dark as coal. But planets are bright, you can see them with the naked eye, and you can photograph them from the center of a city with very modest equipment. Almost any telescope and a simple camera are enough for you to learn the fundamentals of this field. That's why, to accompany you on this journey and so you don't feel lost, you have the Planetary Astrophotography course available at Academia Natural Portraits. My goal is for you to learn how to make the most of the equipment you already have or the one you're going to buy. I teach you from scratch, using this same clear language, how to capture and process those jewels of the solar system. Alright, let's get down to business. If you've seen a telescope box that claims it reaches 300 or 400 times magnification with an image of Saturn or Jupiter this big, run away. This kind of advertising should be banned, but unfortunately it's still used by some very cheap telescope brands. The first thing you should look at in a telescope is the aperture, which is the diameter of the optical tube. Many people think that the aperture is only for gathering light. The larger it is, the more light the telescope will collect. And that's true. But in planetary observation, what we're looking for is resolution, and that's where aperture also matters. Imagine trying to draw a portrait with a thick, round-tipped marker. No matter how hard you try, you won't be able to draw the eyelashes. On the other hand, if you use a fine-tipped pen, the detail appears. In astronomy, the aperture is the tip of your marker. The larger the diameter of the telescope, the finer its ability to separate small details. It's what allows us to see that Saturn's rings aren't a solid mass, but have divisions, or that Jupiter has small storms within its bands. The second pillar is focal length. It's the path that light travels from the moment it enters the telescope until it reaches your eye or your camera's sensor. Since planets are very small objects, we need a lot of magnification. These two concepts, aperture and focal length, have a very close relationship in planetary astronomy. On one hand, the aperture determines the telescope's maximum theoretical magnification. Although some telescope designs perform better than others, we can generally say that the maximum theoretical magnification of a telescope is calculated by multiplying its aperture by 2. That is, for a telescope with a 100 mm aperture, the maximum theoretical magnification will be 200 times, and for a telescope with a 200 mm aperture, it will be about 400 times. Easy, right? On the other hand, the focal length in combination with the focal length of the eyepiece we use will allow us to calculate the actual magnification we are using. We need to apply the formula, focal length of the telescope in millimeters divided by the focal length of the eyepiece in millimeters. This gives us the magnification. This figure will be the number of times we are magnifying with our telescope, and we should compare it with the maximum theoretical magnification we calculated using the aperture to make sure we are not exceeding it. The calculation of maximum theoretical magnification in planetary astrophotography is done differently. I explain it in detail in this other video we have on our partner channel, Astro Academy. And this is where the design of the telescope matters. Refractors use lenses, they are sharp and require no maintenance, but to achieve a long focal length, we need very long and heavy tubes. Furthermore, if we are looking for large apertures to get high resolution, these telescopes also tend to be quite expensive. Newtonian reflectors use mirrors. They are the most affordable in terms of aperture, but for planetary observation, they fall short in focal length and will need to use accessories like Barlow lenses to magnify the image. Additionally, they require some maintenance, such as periodic cleaning of the mirrors and regular collimation. Catadioptrics like Maksutov or Schmidt-Cassegrain telescopes, these are the wizards of design. They use mirrors and lenses so that light bounces several times inside the tube. This way, a telescope only 40 centimeters long can have a focal length of 2 meters. For many, these are the perfect telescopes for planetary observation because of their convenience and power. So, which one should you choose if you're just starting out? With a beginner's budget, a Newtonian telescope of 130 or 150 millimeters is the perfect workhorse. It will allow you to see the moon with incredible sharpness and start experimenting with the planets. It's affordable and teaches you how optics work. On the other hand, the best value for money specialist is the 127 millimeter Maksutov. It's my top recommendation for anyone living in a city. It's a small tube, very powerful for planets, and it hardly requires any adjustments. Just take it out, point, and enjoy. Also, we recently tested on the channel the new 127mm Rumak Maksutov launched by SV Boni, a telescope that delivers spectacular performance in observation and planetary astrophotography and can also be used for deep sky. A two-in-one that's rarely seen in astronomy. And finally, the ultimate setup for those who already know this is what they love, the 8 or 9¼ inch Schmidt-Cassegrain. If you know you're passionate about this is the telescope for a lifetime. It has just the right size so it's not a monster that's impossible to transport, and the necessary aperture to achieve incredible images of our solar system. Those enthusiasts who are certain that the moon, the sun, and the planets are what truly fascinate them will find in any of these telescopes, 8 inches or 9¼ inches, the perfect ally. But be careful because the telescope isn't everything. There's something called seeing, which is air turbulence. I explain everything about this in another video, but I'll summarize it here for you. Sometimes you'll look through the telescope and see Jupiter as if it were at the bottom of a swimming pool, constantly moving and without defined details. It's not your equipment's fault, it's the atmosphere. And this is where planetary astrophotography becomes magical. As I explain in the Academy's course, in planetary astrophotography, we don't take a single photo. Instead, we record thousands of images per second in video format. Then, a smart software selects the moments when the air was still, stacks them, and gives us a final image that is sharp and full of details. So if you're looking for your first telescope, don't get overwhelmed by the highest numbers. Look for a balance, start practicing, and above all, enjoy the journey. If you have any questions about a specific model, leave them in the comments and I'll be happy to help you choose. Don't forget to subscribe for more gadget videos, and I'll see you again next week here on Natural Portraits. Goodbye.